Good afternoon and welcome to CCK Live. My name is Jenna Zelmer. I am an attorney here at CCK representing veterans at the Court of Appeals for Veterans Claims. Joining me today are Amy Odom and Brandon Paiva. Amy also works at the court and Brandon represents veterans at the VA. And today we're going to be talking about 0% or non-compensable VA ratings and why they still matter. We have a blog on this, which will be linked in the comments below. And as always, please feel free to check out our website for more in-depth information. So before we get into asking Amy and Brandon some questions, just a little bit of background information. Non-compensable VA ratings are 0% ratings that VA might assign to a veteran after they've become service-connected. And that 0% rating equals a non-compensable rating, meaning you do not have any monthly compensation owed to you from VA. So you are service-connected, but you are not receiving any monetary benefits related to that service-connected disability. So Amy, with that in mind, why would VA ever assign a non-compensable rating?
Well, sometimes a veteran has a disability that is related to service, that is service-connected, but it doesn't cause any symptoms, or if it does, the symptoms are not severe enough to actually warrant a 10% rating. So in those cases, instead of just denying service connection, the VA will grant service connection and assign a 0% rating.
And then Brandon, how does VA determine what rating is required?
In determining how much compensation a veteran is eligible to receive, VA utilizes what's called their rating schedule to assign specific ratings to each disability. Once a disability is established as being service-connected, it will be rated at a specific percentage, which is based on the presence and severity of the veteran's symptoms. These ratings typically increase in increments of 10, but the requirements for each rating vary by diagnostic code. VA does use what we call at CCK VA math when calculating these combined ratings for disability claims, meaning VA doesn't simply just add up together all of your separate ratings and get your combined rating. There is some, higher level math that's actually involved. The combined rating determines the amount of monthly compensation that a veteran is going to receive. Now, if you have any questions about your disability rating or kind of want to check and kind of see how VA does their VA math, as we call it, we do have a VA disability calculator on our website as well, which we would advise our clients and anybody who's interested to utilize as a resource.
Yeah, and we have a blog on VA math because it is, like you said, it's not just adding up each individual disability rating, and it's a little bit confusing. We get a lot of veterans who look at their individual ratings and think that their combined rating should be higher than it is, but unfortunately that's the way VA does their math. So we have a lot of in-depth information about kind of how VA does that if you're confused about what particular rating and monthly compensation benefits you're receiving. So going back to non-compensable ratings, with a non-compensable rating alone, a veteran won't be receiving any monthly disability compensation. But that doesn't mean that it's the same thing as being not service-connected. So veterans can be eligible for other benefits that aren't monthly disability compensation. Getting service-connected and even getting that non-compensable rating is still better than having no service connection whatsoever. So, Amy, what's the first disability benefit that's not monetary that a veteran with a non-compensable rating can receive?
Well, Jenna, that's the really important benefit of access to VA healthcare. A veteran who has even a 0% rating but a service-connected disability will be in a higher priority group for VA healthcare than would a veteran who does not have even a service-connected disability. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that the VA healthcare will be entirely free. Depending on your income, there could be a copay. So, for example, a veteran with a service-connected disability with a 0% rating could be, and who is below certain income thresholds, would be enrolled in priority group 5. But if a veteran's income isn't below the income threshold, it's above, they'd be likely enrolled in no higher than priority group 7.
I definitely agree. I think that's probably one of the most important benefits that a veteran who's service-connected, even with a 0% rating, could receive. Brandon, what is another benefit?
So another benefit, Jenna, that veterans are eligible for, even though they may have a non-compensable VA rating, is travel reimbursement. So veterans with a non-compensable VA rating are still eligible for reimbursement for travel costs for appointments that are scheduled at a VA medical facility or at a VA authorized healthcare facility as well. Veterans can qualify for all or most travel allowances if they're traveling for things like treatment of a service-connected condition, or you're traveling to attend a compensation and pension examination if you're seeking, an increased rating, or a VA sending you for a CMP exam to check on the severity of that condition. So travel reimbursement is something that is out there and available to veterans that they may not know that they're eligible for, but you still qualify for this benefit if you have that non-compensable rating.
And then a few other other benefits that you can receive with a non-compensable rating are the ability to use commissaries and exchanges and morale, welfare, and recreation and retail facilities. You can use those in person or online. And you might also receive a 10-point veteran preference when searching for jobs in the federal government. So the federal hiring applies a veteran preference. So I would definitely check out the Office of Personnel Management on that. I think we'll send a link in the comments below. And then a full list of benefits is also found on VA's website. But I think the takeaway here is really just because you're not receiving monthly compensation from VA doesn't mean that you're not receiving anything for that 0% rating. So it's definitely important to be aware of everything that you're entitled to as a service-connected veteran. Now, we talked about VA math a little bit before, and that kind of assumes that a veteran would have more than one service-connected disability. So if a veteran has a 0% rating and then maybe a 20 or a 30% rating, VA math would obviously probably still put that person at 20 or 30% combined. But it's also possible that a veteran could have multiple non-compensable ratings for different conditions. And again, VA math is not intuitive. It's not just adding up a bunch of zeros. So Amy, talk a little bit about what happens when a veteran has multiple non-compensable ratings.
In that case, if the veteran has 2 or more 0% ratings, and there's some evidence that the veteran's disabilities interfere with his or her work, so not precludes him or her from working, but has some impairment in work, VA will grant a 10% rating to cover all those 0% disabilities. This is found in 38 CFR 3.324, which provides whenever a veteran is suffering from 2 or more separate permanent service-connected disabilities of such character as clearly to interfere with normal employability, even though none of the disabilities may be of a compensable degree, the rating agency is authorized to apply a 10% rating, but not in combination with any other rating. So in English, that means for veterans with 2 or more compensable or non-compensable ratings, if it interferes with employability, and again, that doesn't mean it renders you unable to work, but it has some impacts on your job and your ability to work, VA will give you a 10% rating to compensate you for the combined disability.
Right. So VA math gets a little bit more complicated. Usually it doesn't work out in veterans' favor. Usually you get a 50% and then you get another 10% and your combined rating doesn't change. You're still at 50%. But sometimes you get 2 zeros and they equal a 10. So it's a little bit confusing, but it's something that you should definitely be aware of when you're receiving your rating decisions with the ratings. And then as always, when you have a rating that you're unhappy with, you can file an increased rating. Right, Brandon?
Absolutely, Jenna. Yeah. So if you're service connected for a disability at a non-compensable disability rating, and you believe that that condition has gotten worse over time, you can go ahead and file a claim for an increased rating, basically saying that you, as the veteran who has this disability, believes that your condition has gotten worse, basically exceeding that 0% that VA has assigned you. Be sure to look at what rating criteria VA has rated you under in order to see if there is a possibility of obtaining a higher rating before you file that claim for an increased rating. During this process, you may also want to seek assistance from an accredited attorney who can guide you through the process and fight on your behalf. There's a lot of things that come into play when we're talking about effective dates, the amount that you are entitled to as far as the compensable rating. As we know, harping back to any of our our previous CCK lives, we're dealing with effective dates, so it does get quite confusing. So if you have any questions, refer to our website or seek, a representative to assist you on your behalf if you're interested in filing a claim for an increased rating.
Yeah, I was going to say we have a lot of information on our blog, and we've done multiple CCK lives on different aspects of the increased rating process, exams, how to file an increased rating, how to get all the way up to 100% rating via TDIU, which Amy kind of alluded to before, noting the difference between that multiple non-compensable ratings and entitlement to TDIU. So there's a lot of information on our website. I think, my main takeaway from this is not to be discouraged if you do receive a rating from VA that's 0%. I think a lot of veterans, see that 0% rating and they think they've been denied service connection because they're not getting paid a monthly benefit. But there is a difference between being service connected and at a 0% rating and not being service connected at all. So it's really important to read your rating decisions carefully and consider all the options and all the information out there to make sure that you're maximizing the amount of benefits that you can receive. Amy, do you have any closing thoughts?
It's always important to make sure that all your disabilities that are related to service are recognized by VA, not only because of the benefits that might come along with a non-compensable rating, but also because then in the future, if the disability gets worse, you don't have to reestablish service connection. It's already service connected. All you have to do is what Brandon said, which is to file a claim for an increased rating.
If you believe your disability has gotten worse, raising to, a level past that 0% that you're entitled to or what VA has assigned you, make sure you file that claim sooner rather than later. As we know, VA does everything by effective dates. So if you believe your condition has gotten worse, go ahead and file a claim as soon as you believe that you're entitled to that benefit. And just to harp back on what Jenna was saying as well, don't be discouraged by you being assigned that 0% rating. Oftentimes in what we do at the court level and both at the agency level, it's really difficult to get veterans service connected for disabilities first. So that is usually, kind of an uphill battle. When it comes to, how severe the condition is later on down the road, it's still difficult, don't get me wrong, because we're dealing with VA, but it's a little bit easier to get that rating increased later on down the road.
That's a really good point, Brandon. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in this afternoon. For more information on non-compensable ratings, please visit our blog at cck-law.com and have a great rest of your day.